Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so Tulsi Gabbard and the Tulsi team have come out swinging once again. The recent suing of Google over the fact that they suspended her ad account has already shown me that Tulsi's definitely going to keep up the fight. You know, so that was a shot number one that I liked. Then there was the shot at Kamala Harris in the last set of debates. Now, in the last couple of videos we've made mention of the fact that it seems like the DNC may be trying to pull some screwy games and possibly screw Tulsi off the debate stage for the September debates and the third debate. And at the same time, as it looks like she may not be able to make the debate stage, possibly Tom Steyer is inching even closer to making that debate stage, which we've also covered in another video. Now Tulsi has come out swinging once again. So straight from ABC News, let's read what we've got here. According to the criteria that the DNC set forth, 2020 candidates must meet the donor threshold of 130,000 unique donors and 2% in 4 DNC qualified polls. Gabbard has exceeded the donor threshold but needs 2 polls to meet the debate criteria. The Gabbard team is citing what they describe as several irregularities in the selection and timing of the DNC-sponsored polls, which is something that, you know, I think I've made mention of once or twice. Apparently, they've made some differences in how many polls they're saying are DNC approved. They're not releasing nearly as many as they were beforehand. Okay, so a lot of people are finding this to be quite odd, or maybe another term would be suspicious. The campaign points out that Gabbard has exceeded 2% support in 26 polls. 26 polls. But only 2 of those 26 polls are on the DNC's certified list. Well. In a press release, the campaign says many of these uncertified polls, including those conducted by highly reputable organizations, such as The Economist, the Boston Globe, are ranked by Real Clear Politics and 538 as more accurate than some DNC certified polls. Well, I'll be. Who would have thought that these party-endorsed polls may not be as accurate as some other polls? I would have never thought that. Once again, there's sarcasm clearly in that statement, considering the fact that, again, every single poll in the land, basically, except the ones that they said weren't credible, said that Hillary Clinton was going to just trounce Donald Trump in a landslide victory with the Electoral College in 2016. There were more people afraid Trump might win a popular vote somehow, and she would just take him to task with the Electoral College. Of course, it turned out to be the polar opposite. She got the popular vote, and Trump won the Electoral College, and actually it wasn't that small of a margin that he beat her by in the Electoral College. So, once again, that is why I have a serious suspicion of these polls, first and foremost. Additionally, they have polled at or above 2% in 2 polls sponsored by the largest newspapers in 2 different early primary states. The Boston Globe, which is the largest circulated paper in New Hampshire, and the Post and Courier in South Carolina. My home state, ladies and gentlemen. Gabbard, who is a major in the Army National Guard, is still currently in Indonesia for a 2-week military training, during which time she is unable to work with her campaign in any capacity. Gabbard will return to the campaign trail on August 27th. Another issue that Gabbard campaign is highlighting is the lack of polls that have been released following the second debate. What did we just mention a moment ago? After the first debate, the campaign highlights that 11 polls were released. However, that number shrank to just 4 polls after the second debate. So, how ironic. You have to qualify on 4 polls but we're only going to release 4 polls. Do what? So we're only going to release 4 polls, and you have to qualify on every single one of them. And the polls we're going to release are, according to some experts, not as accurate as some other polls out here on the market. But we're not going to recognize those. Those aren't going to be approved polls. We're going to release these polls, and you got to meet a minimum requirement on every single one of these polls, or you don't get to make the next round of debates. Wow. The Gabbard campaign also notes that only 2 polls were released in 2 weeks following the second debate. The campaign stressed that the lack of polls that have been released are particularly harmful to candidates with lower name recognition. Delayed poll releases are an advantage for high frame recognition candidates such as Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Kamala Harris. So what she's basically making the point of there is that by waiting a while to release the polls and asking the questions and whatnot, you're giving a favor to the more household names, because obviously people know who they are, and if they, haven't kept up to date, they're going to, oh, Tulsi Gabbard, who's that? Even though she was the most searched candidate on Google after the first and second debate and on the nights where she was on stage. So clearly I think there's some serious grassroots out there for Tulsi Gabbard, without a doubt. And honestly, maybe I'm, just overthinking it. I feel like she's actually probably polling above 2%. I just don't trust these polls. I feel like they're half-rigged, and I don't think they really ask the right people the questions to start with. I feel like they've kind of got a certain group of people they want to ask these questions to. They don't ask young people. There were some polls out not long ago about who was more favorite, Bernie or Biden. And when they looked at the demographic, my God, half of them were drawing Social Security. Half of them were drawing Social Security. Now, I've got nothing against elderly people. I've got nothing against old people, so don't take me wrong. But who's more likely to get out, especially in this day and time with this politically charged environment, and actually go to the polls? Because I can tell you right now, I've got a lot of older members of my family, and not one of them go to the polls and vote. They're too old. They say, oh, it ain't going to make no difference. It don't matter who I go vote for, it's going to be the same thing. And whether you agree with that or not, the point being is a lot of them get to a certain age where they just throw in the towel and say, yep, well, okay, yeah, I'll cheer you on from the sidelines, but I don't want to have to get out in those big old long lines and stand around and get to a booth and then cast my vote. My back hurts, my hip hurts. And I'm not saying that as disrespect. I'm just honestly, I'm making the point here. A lot of people over a certain threshold in age, at least where I'm from, maybe this isn't over the country as a whole, but where I'm from, a lot of them just don't want to get out and vote. They don't feel that they need to. They either feel like it's not going to make a difference, or they're just too old and don't want to have to go fool with it because they're in pain from this or that, and they don't want to stand in lines. Hey, things happen as you get older. Your back starts hurting, your knees starts hurting, you get hip problems, arthritis, and you just don't have to get out and have to fool with something like that. So, with that being said, if you're only going to poll from that demographic, well, for one, there's, that percentage is a lot smaller than the generations you have today. Now, I'm not saying the generations they're necessarily more intelligent. I think with age comes some wisdom and experience, and I do think we have a lot of young people who just absolutely are half cracked, and really they support candidates so that they don't really understand what their policies would do. But those are all topics for another time. So back to this, okay? This isn't Gabbard's first run-in with the DNC. In 2016, she stepped down from the party after serving as vice chair to endorse Senator Bernie Sanders. So something else I brought up in the video. She did not agree with what the DNC and the Clinton campaign were trying to do to Bernie Sanders. She saw it was rigged. She saw it was a mess. She was a person of her convictions and her moral beliefs, and she did what she thought was right and removed herself from the Viper pit. She endorsed who she thought was the best candidate. Now, we can haggle over whether, but I will say this. I have some serious disagreements with Bernie. I'd far rather had saw him as the Democratic Party nominee in 2016 than Hillary Clinton. I've said it once, I'll say it again. I'd rather vote for a billy goat than Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is nothing but a corrupt war hawk who would do the same old status quo BS with this country. So I have my serious disagreements with Bernie, but at the I'm with Tulsi right there. If I had been in her shoes and I had to, and I was supportive of completely of Democratic policy and agenda, I wouldn't have stayed in my nice little cushy position if it meant having to sell my soul to support someone like Hillary Clinton. I wouldn't have done it either. So I commend her for that. At the time, Wasserman Schultz, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, obviously, for those of you who know, she was a big role in the collaboration with the Clinton campaign to rig the primaries against Bernie Sanders in the 2016 primary election cycle for the Democratic Party. Wasserman Schultz claimed that Gabbard's complaints were a distraction. Also, earlier this week, Gabbard threw her support behind a failed attempt to call for the DNC to support a climate change debate. Okay? So with that being said, more smear tactic right there at the end, a little bit from ABC. I like how all these news outlets, when they either have Tulsi on or they do anything about Tulsi, they always have to try to throw something at the end that kind of hits her in a negative light. Oh, she stepped down, and at the time, Debbie Wasserman Schultz said it was nothing but a distraction. Okay, or she threw her support behind a failed attempt to call for the DNC to support a climate change debate. She threw her support behind something that failed. I love how they do that. Go back to the View interview that she did where she just took Meghan McCain to task. And a couple other women on that panel also. But even Joy Behar at the end, even though she kind of half played it to where like, oh, well, it might have been a good message, she knows that the Democrats like Trump about as much as they like measles. Okay? This is not that hard to understand. Okay? They do not like President Trump. Now, there were a lot of blue-collar Democrats who did vote for Trump in the 2016 election cycle, but overwhelmingly, Democrats and liberals can't stand Donald Trump. And what does she say at the end of that interview? And keep in mind, The View is ABC, and this is where this article is coming from. She throws in at the end, well, those sound just like things that President Trump said when he was running, and referencing we don't need to intervene in other countries. We should keep our nose in our own business and tend to our own country. We should stop all this endless war. Use those money for better things. Those are all things I heard President Trump say when he was running that I 100% stood behind him on. And I also stood behind Ron Paul when he said all those things in 2008 for that election cycle and the 2012 election during the Republican primaries on both of those cycles. Okay? So I'm heavily in agreement. I don't care what party, independent, libertarian, Green Party, Democrat, Republican, makes no difference to me. Reform Party. We'll go all the way back to the 90s to the Reform Party. Okay? I do not like the war hawk candidates, and if you got an anti-war message, I might disagree with 99% of everything else you say. I think you have the right approach right there because we've been involved in war too long. Former presidents have warned us that if we didn't keep an eye on it, this sort of thing would happen, and people have not listened. So with that being said, Trump said it, I agreed. Tulsi saying it, I completely agree. When Richard Ojeda was saying it, I completely agreed with him also. Okay? But the point I'm making, they're trying to use that as a smear tactic. some people may not even be picking up on really what they're trying to do with techniques like this. But they're trying to either tie her together with failure, like right here on this article, or tie her to President Trump. And if you need any more proof of that, they're trying to draw the same similarities between her and Russia that they've done with Trump and Russia. They're now saying that she is in Vladimir Putin's pocket. She's a Putin apologist. She's an Assad apologist. They never attacked Trump with Assad. So they've actually taken it a little bit step farther. But they don't want her elected as president either, okay? Because clearly she's got too much grassroots support, and they're afraid that she may be doing some things for the people. Something that I'm sure there's a lot of my liberal colleagues out there and Democrat friends that disagree with me on, but I think that's the same reason the status quo didn't want Trump in office and still attack President Trump to this day. Do I think he is as much of a people's president as he claimed he was going to be? I think to a degree, yes. I can definitely see the argument where there have been some issues where he hasn't done it. He hasn't pulled us out of all the wars like he said he would. He's actually promoted quite a few war hawks into his presidential cabinet. Okay, his attorney general, or former attorney general, repealed the Obama policy to not try to prosecute states for selling marijuana if they legalized it, because it was still illegal at the federal level. As far as I know, I don't think the federal government has actually started prosecuting anyone yet, but nonetheless, it was Trump's former Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, who did reverse that policy, which I heavily disagree with, okay? Trump has also put, other than war hawks, he's also put people like, in charge of the CIA who promoted torture during the Bush administration, okay? So I have my serious issues here with President Trump, but overall, I do think there have been a lot of things that President Trump has done that are good and for the people. For instance, he has done prison reform. He has tried to have talks with Kim Jong-un, something else Tulsi has been in agreement with President Trump on. Okay, he's had the talks with Kim Jong-un and at least tried to bring some peace there. Okay, so the tax cuts they say go to the wealthy. I saw a bigger paycheck, and I don't make over $30,000 a year unless I'm working a heck of a lot of overtime. Okay, so I definitely saw some more money in my pocketbook. Now, am I going to dispute that the wealthier probably saw a bigger one? I'm sure they did. That's why there were so many Republicans in favor of it. Nonetheless, I did see more money in mine. However, apparently after so long, unless it's fixed, my tax cut will go away and theirs stays, and I had a serious issue with that. On the other hand, the Obamacare repeal fell flat. He promised we'd have a better system. That has not happened. Okay, but I give him credit to at least say that Obamacare needed to go. Something else my liberal colleagues will probably disagree with. Obamacare was nothing but an old Republican idea, and it didn't pass years ago. So why is it that great today? I understand a lot of people may have gotten subsidized coverage from it, and then they lost that coverage, but people like me were getting slapped with fines every year for not going to the doctor and not trying to, or not buying a health care plan that we really couldn't have afforded and certainly would have never been able to use. And then we still get fined for it at the end of the year, even though we never went to the hospital, never went to the doctor, because people like myself, which have an accident where they stab a pair of scissors in between their thumb and index finger, their hand in the middle, right in the little fleshy part, gets swole up so that it has a, it looks like there's a golf ball inside my hand. Many people were surprised I could even move it. How did I treat it? Peroxide, gauze, Ace Wrap, and Loctite. And guess what? It healed up. That's how I've been having to take care of myself because of the issue we got with the healthcare system in this country. Okay? So I think Tulsi's really drawing on that populist movement the same way that President Trump was. And what they're doing with these polls and the way the DNC is rigging this whole thing again is just proof of what I've been saying. They don't like her the same way a lot of the Republican status quo did not like Trump in the 2016 cycle. And because of that, I'm very happy that Tulsi is coming out, swinging, and fighting back on this. And that's why I would also encourage all of you, if you haven't done so already, go to my Tulsi 2020 video to help Tulsi get into the debates. There is a link in that video to go to a petition. Sign your name onto that petition. That petition is going to the DNC. Tell them to include some of these very reputable polls into their list of approved polls. Because if they improve them, Tulsi and Julian Castro will be in the next round of debates. So this is just an update, and I really hope that this all works out and that we get to see Tulsi in the next round of debates and that she gets to stay in, and I really hope she keeps making good impressions and those poll numbers keep on going up, because if they screw her out of this, I'm telling you, you're not going to have much choice left on the Democratic side. The top runners right now in that party, minus Bernie, are heavily corrupted. You might be able to argue Warren's corruption, but I have some serious issues with Elizabeth Warren, and I don't trust her. And a big part of that, the media's become very cushy to her. They've been getting very cozy with the idea of an Elizabeth Warren. And in my opinion, anytime the media gets that comfortable with a candidate, there's something going on we might not know about, and there's a reason that they're that comfortable with her. They're clearly not comfortable with someone who stands for their convictions and stands for their morals and doesn't fold under the pressure. Okay? They do what they think is right. And if you do that, right here's the proof of what they will try to do to you. They will try everything in the book to keep you down, keep you out, keep your message hushed. They'll use smear tactics and anything else they can do to try to demean you and take you down a peg or two and not have a chance. The fact they're not doing that with Warren, raises some serious concerns for me. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Independent Report. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up and leave a comment below. Also, please subscribe to the channel, as we're trying to grow this channel to reach more and more people every day. And if you subscribe, be sure that you ring that bell so that you stay up to date and get notifications when we release new content. Also, please support us in the link below with our Patreon. We're trying to make this channel grow. Funds will be used to grow the channel and to reach more people. We appreciate your support, and we hope you tune in next time.